Burstead.
Here.
Chris Freeman. Heather Klinderman.
Here.
Clint Moses.
Here.
Dan Pelson.
Here.
Amy Ertl Swanson.
Here.
Dave Steyer.
Here.
Jim Swanson.
Here.
Rich Thompson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum to conduct business. I would like to to know that we are having some technical difficulties. We had somebody here earlier trying to get it all set up, but we may cut in and out, so just so you know. All of us have everything in front of us on our computer. It's not affecting us, but it may affect what you're able to see out there in the audience, just so you're aware. Thank you. Okay, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
What's the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our mission statement. The school district of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Any agenda, order, and approval revision?
Yeah, I'd like items 4 and 5 on the consent agenda to be moved to the action agenda. And they should be placed before the current action agenda, item 8.
Okay, so you want to take the policy 171.2 and put that,
And policy 523.1, put them on the action agenda before approving the service agreement.
okay. 523 is already in the action agenda?
That was,
But not on the original.
not in the original section.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, and then you want to move the policy 171.2.
Right.
Okay, it's done. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, we don't have any recommendations and commendations tonight, but we do have a highlighted youth, and I understand Downsville is here to present. Thank you.
So we have Mr. Boss, second grade teacher, and some of his fabulous second graders to talk about a conflict resolution skill that they are working on.
Yeah, parents, feel free to come on back. Anywhere is totally fine.
Hi, if you want.
So again, my name is Mr. Boss, second grade teacher at Townsville. This is Dean, Connor, and Miranda are in my second grade class, and they're going to be doing a little bit of a demonstration on a piece path with a little bit of a skip that they have practice with our guidance counselor, Caitlin Perliner, who couldn't be here tonight. So Miranda, whenever you're ready, you can let's go.
Hello everyone, here at Untitled Elementary School we are working on integrating a peace path at our school. This will empower students to self-reflect on their own. A peace path allows students to both be heard and move through the prompts, helping them come to a solution they both agree on. Then they leave the peace path with the complex all by themselves, helping them to take ownership and empower them to solve conflicts in the future on their own. Today we have Connor and Dean who are going to demonstrate how a peace path works. Today at recess, Connor and Dean were playing and got to an argument, so they decided to solve it by using a peace path.
I feel annoyed when you get mad over little things. I know you feel annoyed when I get mad over little things. I feel annoyed when you get too competitive. I know that you feel annoyed when I get too competitive. What can I do to make it right? I need you to stop getting mad when I I'll stop getting so mad when you're just joking around. Thank you. What can I do to make it right? I need you to stop being so competitive, unless it's a competitive moment. I will not be so competitive all the time. Thank you. From now on, I will stop being mad over you joking around. From now on, I will stop being competitive over little things.
Excellent, thank you, kiddos. Okay, student representative communications, Mesa and Emma.
As always, we're going to start updates. So diving into wrestling, on February 15th, the varsity wrestling team will compete at Hudson High School in the WIA regional competition. Girls and boys basketball. Boys basketball record is 7 wins and 9 losses. Girls basketball record is 7 wins and 11 losses. And the girls' senior night is on February 13th. And girls and boys hockey. Girls hockey senior and parent night was on February 7th. And the boys play tomorrow on Tuesday at home at 7 p.m. On Valentine's Day, the boys basketball plays at Eau Claire. Boys swim, also on Valentine's Day, boys swim will compete in the WIAA sectional. And boys swim and dive hosted a VRC tournament on February 8th. And girls dance, the dance team placed 5th in their state competition this month, so that was a big win for them.
And then some student council updates. So we will be hosting a bake sale throughout this week during both lunches, and all proceeds from that will be going to the family of a freshman student with cancer. And then our school spirit committee is working on making welcome gifts for new students and increasing attendance at our home sporting events. And our student voice committee held a focus group meeting to discuss student concerns, and we are currently working with the building leadership team and administration to find solutions to some of those issues that were brought up.
Some general school updates. National School Counseling Week was on February 3rd through 7th. MHS FFA presented at the February staff meeting about the school and community-based activities they lead as a chapter. I was informed that there was a band concert this morning. The forensics team will compete on Saturday 15th at Prescott High School.
And then just some teacher updates. So students in Mr. McMahon's environmental biology classes competed in the annual West Central Area Conservation Awareness Poster and Speaking Contest. And Tegan Bignell's poster won first place at the county level and then third place in the region. And Mia Smith won first place for her speech at the county level and was second in the region. The National Ocean Science Bowl, and they were our highlight on youth last month. They earned second place at the Lake Sturgeon Bowl on February 1st, and they just missed earning a trip to the national finals when they were beaten by the team from St. Louis, and they ended up winning third at finals last year. So they are working hard to win next year. And then FCCLA has 7 students competing at Stout on February 19th for regionals, and those who qualify will move on to state in April. And the advanced foods class will be attending a field trip to Stout on February 13th for the Wisconsin Restaurant Association student culinary competition, and the students will be spectating the event so they can learn about culinary competition, and they will be given a tour of the campus. And then GX students will be attending the Global Market in Minnesota this upcoming Wednesday to count towards a cultural experience.
And finally, the grant program update. The most recently approved grant was awarded to the Tech Ed Department of Menomonie High School for $500. And the money will be used to develop an electricity unit. It will be used to purchase things such as wires, outlets, switches, breaker boxes, and the necessary supplies to teach wiring to students. And that's all we have today. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Dan?
Speaking for myself and I hope for the board, I wish the freshman student a speedy recovery from the illness. Possible.
Thank you, ladies.
I have a
Oh,
little
I'm
detail.
sorry.
The boys swim actually broke a school record as well in the 200 medley with a 242.1, I believe, and it was a 245. It had been up not that long, but my younger brother actually held the record on that medley. So, they shattered it, it wasn't even close, so.
The forensics team too competed in bowling this last weekend and took second. Got beat out by Hudson, so tough competition. We're gearing up for the next one.
Thank you, ladies. Community communications, I do not have any that were brought to me. Seeing none. Okay, board superintendent communications, board members? Penny?
On Monday, I attended the both hourly and teacher QIC meetings. They both went really well. Hourly was pretty brief. The teachers went a little bit longer. Lots of great questions about compensation, especially on the teacher end of things. And so there might be another follow-up meeting before the next quarterly QIC. But again, a lot of great feedback, and we'll see some more recommendations and commendations coming down from those QIC groups, so we appreciate their time.
Heather?
I have a question. So at the QIC meeting, I believe you sit on that, Amy,
Yes.
but you were unable to attend the last one, so you asked Jim to. Is there a protocol of who is sitting on there then when you are, or Penny is absent?
Not that I'm aware of, but it was I just have him come because I couldn't, I had work with a commitment.
But shouldn't an email been sent out to see who could have attended?
I suppose that could be worked out the next time. Penny?
I did point out to Dr. Zadowski, I will not be able to attend the next quarterly because I'll be on my way back from the National School Board Convention, so that this would maybe be an opportunity or another board meeting prior in which one of the other board members would possibly be willing to sit in for me at that meeting, because I know before I was actually on the QIC, there was a time when I don't even remember who was supposed to be in, and an email went out to the board and I just was available. So just to put it out there for April.
Okay, thank you. I will do that for if I can't be there, or if you can't be at Penny, I'll make sure I send out an email.
Yep, I
All
will
board
be for
members
sure.
that would like to be there, or could have a chance to be there. Thank you. Okay, anybody else, any other board members? I'm sorry, Tricia.
So last week, the 31st of January to the 4th of February, I attended the National Equity Symposium in Washington, D.C., as well as the Advocacy Institute. They kind of ran back to back. And there were over 20 sessions that I attended, and I've been trying to figure out how to give an update that was thorough, but it literally could take all night. So I ended up actually typing up something, and then I could read through it really quickly. It'll only take a couple minutes, but it has the main points that I think that were things that I wanted to get across that I had learned. And so what I thought I would do is then gather all the conference information, and then I don't know if we've decided that if we should like scan it and have it available that way, or have physical copies, but I'm more than willing to share whatever I have and to have conversations with people as well. So for now, some of my key takeaways are perspective. Over 800 fellow school board members as well as administrators were in attendance. They represented a wide variety of school districts in regards to size and culture and race. The school board, one school board member I represented a school district with over 100,000 students. There were also many school board members who shared similar diverse cultural and ethnic backgrounds with the students and families they represented. I learned roughly 32 states require school board members to attend yearly trainings, but would emphatically insist most everyone I met and who attended were there because they wanted to advocate on behalf of the school districts and the students. Innovation was another takeaway. This was really interesting to me. I have pages and pages of notes of ideas I learned from presenters as well as face-to-face conversations. We heard from the FCC Commissioner Jessica, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, Rosenworcel, who discussed the importance of the E-rate program and presented ideas like addressing the nationwide homework gap of 12 million students through outfitting buses with Wi-Fi so that students can use technology they have been provided from their schools to work on homework during the long bus ride. As an added bonus, I learned that many bus drivers like this idea because the buses are apparently very quiet. One additional example of innovation I learned about was from a presentation by two teen siblings who created an app, a free app called Not Okay. The app was created by Charlie after his sister Hannah, struggling with a lifelong illness, attempted suicide. Once loaded on a phone, the app has a digital button someone can push to immediately send to text to those who they have previously selected. It states, hey, I'm not okay, please text me, call me, or come find me, along with the GPS location of the individual. More proof our students are not just trying to live their best life, but also trying to help many other students. Overall, I feel that I was informed and empowered beyond any Google search. While I was in DC, the findings from a nationwide survey of 1,000 likely 2020 voters was released to the public. The sample was collected from voters in key battleground states, of which Wisconsin is one of them. I have a copy of the report as well as we'd be willing to email a copy to anyone who wants to read the data. Among other information reported, voters expressed they are committed and favorable towards public schools and teachers and remain skeptical and critical about elected officials doing a good job on education. And then finally, one of the biggest reasons I am such an advocate for teachers and administration participating in continuing ed is because I know how I feel about those opportunities I am provided. The information presented at this convention and the other WASB conferences I have attended has always been relevant and timely. I returned from DC energized and filled with hope. My main focus while speaking with our federal legislators was to ask that they support the full funding of special education to the original 1975 promised federal contribution rate of 40% that currently sits somewhere between 13 and 14% and has never increased beyond 16%. The proposed legislation, H.R. 1878 and S. 866, puts Congress on a 10-year path to full funding and thus providing the opportunity to free up other funding for the use for all students. And then finally, really, I just want to say thank you to Joel and to Jamie for helping with the logistics of my attendance, as well as to Tonya, Leah, and Joe for the last minute data, gathering data for me. Regarding special education funding and transition students, along with my personal story regarding the impact transition project search and work experience had on my brother's success, the data you provided helped legislators understand the local impact of federal funding, and I sincerely appreciate your assistance and support. And again, I would be more than willing to have conversations with people. This is as much as I could condense in a short amount of time. So.
Thank you, Tricia. Sounds like a great time. Good work. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim?
So there's a letter in there about clean energy, and also a sample resolution from the Eau Claire School District. And I was at Environmental Lobby Day last week down in Madison, and I talked to Lady Garland, who works for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. You can read the letter, but they're promoting local governmental units making a commitment to produce clean energy by certain dates. And we've already started down this path with like buying into the solar and doing a lot of the things we're doing. A lot of what you read is actually stuff we're already doing. So she's willing to come and talk to the board about it, what it kind of entails. So I think it would be great to have her get on the agenda sometime and come talk to us about the program.
Any other board members? Just to piggyback on what Jim said, I was approached by several people at the forum afterwards who talked about this very thing and said that it would be good for us to maybe take a look at it. So I was really excited that I got the letter after hearing that, and that Joe made sure that it was put in our content so we could read it. So, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, Dr. Joe.
So, two board members want me to put that on, want Amy and I to put that on an upcoming agenda then? Okay. There's a lot of stuff for board member superintendent communications tonight. So we already talked about that. Also, the search for the next principal at Downsville Elementary School. I shared a timeline with the board. I decided to wait until after tonight's meeting to send it out. Are there any questions, concerns, or suggestions about the timeline? It's very similar, and we had good success last year with the River Heights search and the high school search. It's really modeled after that, so we'll move forward with that. And then actually just today, a few things. DPI sends out its legislative update, so I included that for board members just as an informational item. Also, we appreciate Lainey Marshall. She shared information about the calendar for UW Stout Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion events, so that's in there. And then finally, late this afternoon, we received an email from the School Board Association. Now is a very critical time talking about the state budget and the fact that revenues are expected to be higher than what was going to be expected. So Governor Evers has called and developed a plan that would include additional revenues for schools. It would really focus in on tax relief through the equalized aid provided to school districts, but it would also increase things like special education funding, similar to what Tricia was talking about at the federal level, sparsity aid. Some of the things would impact our district more than others, but I do plan to draft a communication to our legislators in support of Governor Evers' plan for those additional dollars. Board members, certainly you're welcome to do that as well if you so choose. Let's see, there are a number of other events coming up. Board members can check those out, and if you have any questions, please feel free to either let me or Jamie know. And then finally, we just had that discussion about the committees, and I know that our board doesn't use committees very often. This board operates mostly as a committee of the whole, so we're not real familiar with the policy. We don't use that policy as much as some of the other ones. But in policy 185, it does say that a member who is unable to meet a scheduled committee meeting or the board president may authorize any other board member to take his or her place on the committee. So I think that's what happened with Amy appointing Jim. And if any other board member ever needs to miss, like Penny mentioned, just contact Penny, and either she can appoint someone to fill her spot or she can contact the board president. I know different board presidents have done it different ways in the past. Sometimes there is an email going out to the whole board. I think in Amy's case, she was able just to find her replacement, and that worked out just fine. So policy 185 is the reference for that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, revenue and expenditure reports for month ended January 2020. Leah, take it away.
Okay, we'll take a look at the expenses by function report first. We'd like to open that. Overall, for the month of January, our percent spent year-to-date is 38.69% compared to last year at 36.33%, so expenditures are higher this year. For Fund 27, we're at 43.99% compared to 43.36% last year. And then Fund 50, our food service fund, we're at 48.08% compared to 49.31%. So food service slightly under where they were at the same time last year. Nothing out of the ordinary for the month of January as far as expenditures for the general fund, just the timing of bills and payments vary from year to year. The next report are expenses by object. We'll take a look at that one next. And this report is for all funds, not just the general fund. So for year to date, through the month of January, we're at 38.18% compared to last year at 36.46%. And again, no other changes, just, the timing of bills and the variance from year to year for that. And then the last report, we'll take a look at the revenues. For January, some things to keep in mind. We have our first tax levy payments coming in from the December collections. And then also we receive our third special education aid payment in January at 15%. So for our general fund 10, our overall revenue to date is $12,740,085.29. For Fund 21, our gift and donation fund, we've received in $96,056.41. And then for special education, we've received in $637,429.60. Does anybody have any questions on the expense and revenues?
Remember, any questions? Dan?
I was wondering, we don't, in the expense by function report, we don't talk about, or there's nothing listed about our self-insurance funds. Is that included in there, that any place?
Yep, it's rolled up into all the functions because personnel are broken out by all the different functions. So it's just separated out into each individual fund from 130,000 through 290,000. Those would all include salaries and benefits within those functions.
So how are we doing on that self-insurance fund? Are we looking to have, are we in pretty good shape?
Yep, if you take a look at the expenses by object, the very last row there is the trust fund expenses, and that's where that would be included. And so fiscal year to date, we're at $764,713.66 compared to $769,000 last year, $669. So.
If I could add in too, in the consent agenda and the financial reports, there's a 12-month rolling average. And when I want to concentrate on the self-funded plan, that's the report I really look at. And if you take a look at that one, it's sitting at about 2.4 million right now, which is a little lower than last month, but it's still running above the average for that time period. So it's looking pretty good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, thank you. Item K is monthly employment report. This is just for your information. Anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Okay, seeing none. Okay, next, first of all, before we go into the action to consent agenda, is there any other items that need to be moved, or if anybody wants to be moved? That's part of our new policy. Supposed to ask that. Okay, hearing none. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the the consent agenda.
So move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, Clint and Penny. Okay, and what we are approving tonight are the minutes from January 13th and January 27th board meetings, the financial reports, general fund checks in the amount of $2,188,286.27, and cash receipts in the amount of $3,810,725.01 for the month of January 2020 as presented. We also have 4 donations exceeding $1,000 from to the high school FBLA from an anonymous donor, $1,000 to MS Fuel Up to Play 60 from Target, $1,000 to high school DECA from an anonymous donor, and $1,000 to high school athletics supplies from Life Touch. Janie? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next, action agenda, item A, policy 523.1, staff physical examinations. I entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, discussion.
I just want to point out, I appreciated Jim's help on this. There were some suggestions the board had during the first reading. I tried to incorporate those into the policy being approved tonight. I was able to connect with Jim after that once again, and you can see that the most recent edition has some verbiage at the very end, just clarifying that to the extent permitted or required by state law, the results of any of these exams, these tests performed during initial employment health examinations or interval-based re-examinations, such as the TB, lifting, or hearing tests, may be used as a condition of employment. There's nothing specific, no plans for that, but in terms of having the policy be inclusive and clear, that was some verbiage that we added. So just want to make sure the board knows what they're approving tonight.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay. Jamie, take the vote.
Tricia, did you vote?
Helps if I'm on the right spot. Yes, no, I'm
Okay, motion carries. Okay, policy 171.2, agenda preparation and dissemination. I entertain a motion to accept that policy as noted.
I'll move.
I have to move it in there.
No.
That was.
So Dan made a motion.
I
Okay.
move. Yes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jim.
So if I can speak to this one, Amy, if that's okay.
Sure, you bet.
The board has this policy, it just needs to be moved from the consent area down into the action area. This already received a first reading, and we had, the board had some feedback at that time. Those changes were made, and it should be ready to go.
Any discussion?
It was Dan and Jim on the motions.
Seeing none? Jamie? Motion carries. Thank you. And finally, I entertain action to approve service agreement for pre-employment physicals.
So moved.
Heather?
Second.
Was that Vic? Oh, Dan, okay, thank you. Heather and Dan. Any discussion? Penny?
I apologize for not being here at the last meeting, but I'm wondering why there's been an open records request in regards to the pre-employment physicals. In my universe, it's kind of normal in the business world to make this happen, and I'm wondering why the time and all of the effort, additional effort was necessary to district employees for these open record requests. What did I miss, I guess, maybe is a better question in this whole process. To me, this is a given, and I think that this feels like we're micromanaging a little bit right now.
Actually, we're not. I made the request, obviously. You weren't here. I can't say a whole lot because it was in closed session. But we had a long discussion and there were a whole lot of questions asked. And open records request seemed the best way to get out the information and bring it to the light of day, so I did.
Okay,
Did you get your questions answered?
Yes.
Are you comfortable with the answers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Heather,
I have a question. How did you know that Reform Medicine was on the bid?
It was listed in one of the communications that Joe put out for us. I just went back to an old email or board docs and put it in there.
basically what happened is they reviewed these bids and we never saw the bids. And that's what he just wanted to see was the bids for all the different, and they were on the agenda. That's what the bids were. But not what the bids were, but just where they bid, and we didn't see those. And I think that's what he was questioning. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none? Jamie? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Moving along to discussion items. Petition to alter school district boundaries. And I would like to invite the Brandenburgs to come forward.
You're welcome to sit right at the table there with the microphone if you'd be comfortable. If I could just comment, I appreciate, we had a really nice conversation last week, and I know Boyceville is also going through the process. This is the first time I've gone through the process. Amy has served on the Boundary Appeals Board at the state level for a while, so she was able to provide some advice, and I shared with the board members the wealth of information that's on the DPI website. So at this point, basically the board can just hear about the request, why the petition was made, and then at our next meeting, we'll put it on the agenda and the board can decide what the board would like to do through a possible resolution. And then at that point, if there's agreement with Boyceville, it can move forward. If there's a disagreement, then it would go to the State Appeals Board. But thank you for joining us. You can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Just clarification, can we ask questions tonight? If we have one, do they come up what we're talking about?
It's on the agenda, so yeah, the board can interact.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But yeah, if you could please introduce yourself and explain to the board your petition. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Brandenburg. This is my wife, Jenna. We live in Menomonie here. And, in November, we bought a piece of land, 25 acres just north of town. So it falls in the Menomonie, well, part of it falls in the Menomonie district, part of it falls in Boyceville. And our assumption was it was a Menomonie address, everything was good to go for the school district. Well, as Steve Kashaver, I hired him to draw the CSM up on it, and before we closed on it, he sent me an email, and I actually just highlighted a couple pieces, and it says, no, this is something the surveyors don't normally check. It is certainly unique and unusual circumstance, but it's a process you have to go through. It should be cleaned up fairly easily. So once both parcels are on the same district, the parcel can then be joined back into one tax bill. So I guess we're here just kind of going through the motions. We talked with Steve, and he gave us some information as to who to talk to, said if there's any questions, we talked to the Dunn County Land Info Office. So we did that. They sent us to they actually emailed me a petition form. So I filled that out, and I submitted it to the town of Sherman, because that's where the property is located. And then they filed that with the school district, and we met with them last week. Just kind of discussed, we've got 13 acres falls in the Menomonie district, and 11 falls in the Boyceville. It's split in half, but lo and behold, it's vacant right now. What we want to do is build a house, and of course our house falls in the Boyceville School District. We've been in this district here in Menomonie for the last 9 years. I've got a business in town here, so we're kind of stuck. I don't say stuck here, but we have a reason to be here.
And out of the 9 years, it's been 12, almost 13.
Well, yeah, details. So, as far as reasons why we want to stay in here, we've got a daughter. I'll let my wife kind of explain the ins and outs of our major concerns as to why we want to stay in the district here. So,
our oldest daughter is 12, almost 13, and she has been a student at Wakanda since she was 3, actually. She has some special needs. She has epilepsy and mild cerebral palsy. Sorry. And she has anxiety and a lot of, she has a hard time with new people, new situations, and so she's been with the same group of friends, the same special ed students throughout school since she was 3. And so I guess for us, our biggest concern is making a big change to a new school, new teachers. She's had great staff throughout the years. She's had, at Wakanda, she always had the same teachers and everybody kind of knew her, kind of helped her through, made her feel comfortable. And so that for us is our biggest concern about, kind of uprooting her. And, she has more opportunities in Menomonie than in Boyceville. And then, of course, if something were to happen, a seizure, she had a seizure that lasted 45 minutes, and they were concerned about brain damage, things like that. So being closer to the hospital here in town, if something were to happen, is a concern. So I guess that's our biggest concern about staying in Menomonie.
Does the board have any questions? David?
How did your meeting you met with Boyceville already? How
We
did
did,
that go?
I thought it went well. Same kind of thing, we're new to this, we've never done this before, kind of unusual. So they asked us the questions, we answered what we could. We outlined it on a map as to where our property falls in, I understand if it was a mile north or 2 miles north or something different, but we're on the line, we're half and half, so it's kind of I thought it was a valid request. They told me at the meeting that they would discuss it after we had left. And then they'll bring it to, I think they have another meeting scheduled this week to discuss it, and then they'll vote on it, so yeah, I felt confident when I walked out, I guess.
Well, looking at the map, who is in Boyceville? Like, are Schwacks in Boyceville, or is that Menomonie?
Schwacks, I think, would be in Boyceville.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it'd be, like, Mike and Heather Kistner, for instance, they would be Menomonie?
That's Boyceville.
Okay.
So that's on the very edge of our property. Yeah, so we're the boundary line between maybe Keatzer, and then us. That's the line on the north-south, on the eastern portion. And then when you go closer to Highway J, that's where it's considered Boyceville. So it's not a straight line. It's kind of
Was this property split up like that before?
No, it wasn't. He actually, the guy I bought it from owns 140 acres. And we asked him to just buy a piece to put a house on. So Steve configured up, 25 acres. We drew it up, and when we looked at the property, it said Menomonie address. So we were, I guess, under the assumption it was Menomonie School District, but that's not how that works.
Penny?
I understand, I have a Colfax address, but I'm in the Menomonie School District, so I understand what you're saying, and I'm happy to be here. I guess one of my questions would be, maybe, Joe, this would be more geared towards you or to you guys. One, do you utilize our busing services? Okay, well, then that pretty much answers my question. If there was going to be any kind of a busing concern, busing issue, trying to get a bus out to you guys if we were really allowed to.
Yeah, we have a business in Menomonie too, so we're in town every day. So that's been, I volunteered at school and stuff throughout the years, so I'm there plenty. So yeah, it's hard to think of, you know, like you said, changing everything she's known over the years is really my biggest.
To clarify, then you bring her to school, is that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. David?
Speaking for myself, but I mean, I see no reason why, you know, I shouldn't say this, but, you know, I think it seems like a valid request, certainly from our standpoint, so.
Do you have other kids in the district?
Yeah. We have a 9-year-old at Wakala.
And I can testify they take up a spot in the line at the main school. There's one more car in the.
I was there too.
Like 2 car lines.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm with David, and I think the exceptional nature of the child is something that we have to really, really weigh heavily on. I agree with this request, in my opinion.
Jim?
Since you've been on this appeals committee, I don't know how many years now, can you kind of scope us in on the process of the
Sure.
years from here?
Sure.
What goes on?
If Boyceville accepts your request to have your whole property annexed to Menomonie, and Menomonie accepts it, it's over.
Yeah.
It's written up, it's fine. If one of the other school districts decline, like let's say Boyceville decides they want the property because they like it for the tax base, that happens a lot, then you would have to file with the DPI, and then there'd be a hearing sometime in the spring, like May, late April, early May, somewhere in there. And there's 3 representatives from school boards across the state. Obviously, I would not be able to sit on that because it would be a conflict of interest. But there's 3 board members. One is from a small school district, one from a medium district, and one from a large district. There's 12 people that are on it, one from each CISA in the state. So that's how that would work. So in other words, if Boyceville accepts, we accept, it's done. You know, it's just paperwork and that kind of thing. But if like I said, Boyceville denies, then you have to go to the DPI. It does cost $750 to file, but from what I understand, you get some of that back.
Is that a local hearing or is that Madison?
No, actually it's in Madison. And usually when there's a hearing, like Joe might be there or send a representative for the district that's getting the land, and then the people that are trying to maybe not give the land away, they would be there in support of that piece of keeping the property.
Okay.
But in my mind, if I was, serving on that board, obviously I can't because of the conflict of interest. You do have a very valid excuse that probably, in my mind, the DPI would listen to. Anybody else? Tricia?
I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for taking the time and energy to come here and express your concerns and wants. I truly appreciate it.
So going forward, we will also have a discussion in our board meeting, probably not this evening, but we'll probably have a discussion on the agenda at the next meeting, and we'll let you know what we decide. Okay? Thank you for your attendance and for presenting your case. We appreciate it. And thank you for talking about our great teachers. We like them too. Okay, next is the preview of the board bullying video.
I know board members had a chance to look at it, but we're going to see if we can play it here, if the technology will cooperate tonight.
I think maybe we should just do it again, right?
Okay. You all can still watch it on your own computer. You don't have to watch it up here, it doesn't work.
Yeah, sorry about the technology issues. I know Katie and her team has worked hard, but it is a new system and they're still ironing out some of the bugs. Instead, board members, you had an opportunity. You got work on? Okay, board members, you had a chance to watch it. Is there any feedback or any suggestions that you'd like to have noted?
When is this going live? I mean, when is this going to be presented to stakeholders, students?
That's to be decided tonight by us, how we want it to be disseminated. So any suggestions you have?
So get it out there, someone, Twitter feed or a link, you can do that, right? I don't use Twitter, so I'm assuming that's possible. Facebook, whatever.
Anybody else have any ideas?
Obviously, a link on a website.
Okay. Website, Twitter?
Maybe a link on school crossings.
Link on school.
Oh, the email system. Does anybody want to write an introduction for the email that goes out? Or would you like me to do that?
First person meeting.
Yeah, that's his thing.
I could whip something up if you want.
Whatever the board would like.
The board okay with that?
Wonder if maybe the schools that have that publish their bulletins could also reference it too.
David?
Is this something they'll be showing in the classrooms, you think, too, at the schools? or- I was thinking elementary and especially maybe middle school.
We could do any and all, whatever the board would like.
Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. Thanks.
So Jim's going to write up a little
Paragraph.
paragraph to go with the message that goes on the district email. I'll take care of the social media piece. And then in terms of communicating out to the staff, I'll use the paragraph Jim sends, but then I'll also send a directive to have it shown to students. Kindergarten through 12th grade, kindergarten through 8th grade. 12th grade. Okay.
Penny?
Sorry, kindergarten through 12th is fine with me, but I guess I would like the whole board to see the paragraph before it goes out to the public.
Thank you, Penny. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to suggest the same thing.
Just so we all get a little input, I think that would be great.
Clint?
Can we see that and maybe discuss it or vote it on email so we don't delay this another 2 weeks to the next meeting? Or is it something that paragraph that Jim puts together has to be brought to the meeting and then we're delaying the thing again?
The board should not discuss it over email, however, it could be sent out, and if there's any concerns, those concerns could be sent to Amy or whoever you designate. So really it'd be like an implied consent. But if there is a concern, it really should be discussed at a noticed board meeting.
Yeah, so I guess my thought is if someone has an objection or a problem with it, can they contact you to bring that up? I understand a walking quorum and not having a meeting or whatever, but it'd be nice to keep moving on this thing.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay,
Okay.
so maybe have you write it, send it to Joe. Joe sends it out, so there's not a walking quorum. If there's any concern, direct it to me or to Joe, or both of us, and then we'll go from there. And hopefully, if there's not any concern and it looks good, then it would be okay to give Joe permission to send it out. Is that clarified for everybody? Is that okay with everybody?
Amy, do we need a deadline as to when we're supposed to get back to you?
Good question. Well, it depends. How quick you're going to get that?
I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll get it to the board, give the board 24 hours to get back, and then we should be able to get it out by Friday.
Okay.
Good?
Everybody okay with that? Okay, good. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the board for allowing this to go out. Like I said, it's something that I'm really pleased about.
And can we make sure that Chris is in a loop in this as well, being that this is kind of one of his
Yes.
passion projects, so he knows that he needs to respond
Yes.
quickly if he has any concerns?
Yes. Thank you, Penny, for reminding us that Chris is not here. Thank you. Okay. Next, review staffing and course differing timeline for 2020, 2021.
So the first piece of this is informational. That's the timeline that the board has already seen and that we'll be using to develop the staffing plan. But now that we're starting to get closer, it's going to be here before we know it. I just wanted to reach out and find out, are there any particulars that the board desires to see in the staffing plan? I am cautioning all of the building administrators, all the department leaders, after adding almost $1 million of staffing for this school year, and knowing the cost of our staff is going to continue to increase just based on the demographics of our staff, I do think that the board should be careful. It'd be great if we have more resources coming from Madison. It sounds like that might be a little, might not happen, so we'll have to see. But with that being said, are there any particular items that the board would like to have included in the discussion of the staffing plan for 2020, 2021?
David?
We did a lot of work on this last year. Some of those second steps that we had talked about last year, what about the possibility of bringing those back for review at some point down the road, just to see if any of those would be pertinent now, or I understand the cost side of it, but just as a refresher, because we put a lot of effort into that last year.
I think that's a good idea because we do have the list generated. We were actually able to get down into the third tier, I think, in most areas. But we can kind of use that as a baseline, and then also as the requests come in, I'm sure we're going to still receive some requests from the departments and from the buildings, and then we can try to prioritize it for, like, reprioritize based on all the requests, and at that point the board could decide in terms of investment what is something that you want to support and what is where you want to draw the line. Okay.
Jim?
I don't know if it's possible, but could we get like the new positions we put in place last year, kind of like a report on the impacts of them, like, I mean, how has that impacted the education and workloads and that kind of thing? Because I know some of them like, especially like the music one, they were like really overloaded and with the position for that and some other stuff.
Yeah, we can definitely put together an impact report.
Sounds good. Good suggestion, David. Also. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is the street address change for Wakanda Elementary, and I have to tell you a little funny story about this. Joe put this on the agenda, and it just said address change for Wakanda Elementary. I took it two ways. This just goes to show you how important it is to make sure that you say what you mean and mean what you say. Just a humorous thing. But at first I thought, well, does he mean address change, like physical address, or does he mean address a change for Wakanda Elementary School? So then he said, well, I'll put street address in. So that's why it's there, yeah.
So you saw the Leader Telegram article. The city received a request about renaming Wakanda Street. Appreciate the city reaching out to us to find out how that may impact our school district. And in talking with Mrs. Momsen and Mr. Tomaszewski from Buildings and Grounds, it actually works out well for us because there have been concerns about the actual address being on the back side of the building. Mr. Prangy, the city administrator, had done some communications, I think with the fire chief and some other people about what that possibly could mean. So whether or not the street change goes forward, we are going to be recommending that we go ahead and change the physical address for Wakanda Elementary School to Pine Avenue. We would be making this change in the summer just to get through the school year and try to avoid any unforeseen problem that could entail. But before we do that, I want to bring it forward to the board, see if there's any questions or concerns. I'm not sure if a formal motion on this would be needed or not. We're still kind of in the researching process on that. But in terms of the initial idea, are there any concerns or questions?
Heather?
I just have a question. Who will make the calls to have everything changed over? You know, like if you have any bills come to there or website updates, just everything that kind of comes there, how will that be handled or?
We talked a little bit about it with department leaders. I mean, obviously we talked to Katie about the website, talked to Leah about some of the billing, talked to Mrs. Momsen about the letterhead, things like that. We don't consider any of those items at this point to be prohibiting this change.
I don't mean change, I mean prohibiting, but just, I'm thinking like, if it does occur, I'm assuming it will occur, like just everything that kind of comes and deals with changing anything that's permanent.
Yeah, like the nice thing is the current address, it would be really close to the address we're talking about in terms of like the building number.
Okay.
So there's some advantages there that we've talked about, but I don't know unless anybody else, Susan or Leah, Katie, if you have anything else to add. We don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you. Okay, next is item E, items related to next meeting dates, board committees and reports, pretty much informational. Any questions about that? Okay, and then next will be the board member book study.
Thank you, administrative team, for coming. You're certainly excused.